Hello again, rail fans. You can see here that the Harmon sign fence is under a maintenance curfew right now. I'm taking down all the signs. I'm going to clean the fence back there and put the signs back up in a more logical order rather than just as I get them. But meantime, I want to tell you about two new signs that I have gotten recently. First is that end of track marker back there. That's courtesy of David Howard. Now, a lot of you know David. He's a fixture at the Jacksonville Train Show every year in February. His display is always in the very back right-hand corner of the convention center. He's always got great stuff. So thank you, David, for this never-before installed end of track marker. The second edition here is courtesy of David Moore out of Gainesville, Florida. A Seaboard Airline locomotive nose herald. This thing is a replica, but it's an exact replica, right down to the Scotch light reflector sheeting on the white parts of the sign, and not a scratch on it. So many thanks to David Moore. Hopefully I'll have that whole fence back in operation on our next visit. Now let's get to today's story. The Florida Central Railroad and its two sister roads, the Florida Midland and the Florida Northern Railroad, were purchased recently by shortline operator Regional Rail. Someone up there came up with the idea of painting some of their locomotives in predecessor schemes. Now, since most or all of their Florida trackage is former SAL or ACL rail, they settled on the merger road Seaboard Coast Line. The simple black and yellow stripes, and one day in late 2023, at least in Central Florida, the SCL was reborn.
Lake Wales, Florida. For decades, this was the center of the orange juice business in Polk County and probably what brought the Seaboard Airline Railroad here. These tracks are what's left of the Seaboard in Lake Wales, the last mile or so of the old SAL coming east out of Bartow. It's that heritage and that of the Atlantic coastline that prompted the shortline Florida Central Railroad to paint some of its locomotives in Seaboard Coast Line colors. SCL was the merger company created in 1967 when competitors SAL and ACL finally joined up. Today's Florida Midland is what's left of the old Seaboard Airlines Valrico subdivision that ran from Valrico to Mulberry to Bartow to Westlake Wales to Lake Wales and finally to a place called Alcoma. I arrive at the parking lot for the Florida Midland's locomotives. This engine, number 57, is an EMD model GP7U. It's hooked up to number 55, a similar model GP7U, but still in previous owner Pensley's red, yellow, and black scheme. The SCL scheme on the 57 is a beautiful recreation of the original. Florida Central even replicated the SCL nose herald with remarkable accuracy. I'd been here about 30 minutes when the crew arrived and began their safety checks and crank up on the engines. While they got the locomotives ready, a couple of things caught my attention. The 57 engine has a large metal plate right above the number boards on the cab roof. If you look closely, you can see a Sinclair Excalibur radio antenna up there. I'm guessing this replacement GP7 cab didn't have the ground plane room for that antenna, so somewhere along the way, they had fabricators make this plate as a mount. A ground plane is a flat metal surface that most mobile antennas need to work properly. Second was the push-pole dimple on the corners of the engine frame. Push-poles were used from the steam era and into the 1960s to push errant cars in adjacent sidings or yard tracks. They were dangerous and could kill or injure a trainman when they slipped out or broke. By now, the crew have gotten everything cranked and checked out. Today, the job is to switch out the Lowe's Flatbed Distribution Center in Frostproof. That's about a 15-mile run from here. 57's crew will have to back their cars east about a half a mile and out onto an ACL remnant line. There, they'll pull forward the 14.5 miles down to Frostproof. Trainman Ken walks up to line the yard lead switch that will route them out onto the short main line. The switches are nowhere near new, so he has to put his back into it. And finally, they're off, shoving back just a short distance to pick up their cars. I sashayed around to catch them at the North First Street crossing. Right here, the main and the siding were apparently realigned to accommodate a sweeping curve that joined up with the Atlantic Coast Line's track sometime after the 1967 merger. There are large concrete piers out there still in the ground that evidently supported a sizable building long ago. Maybe a freight depot, maybe a maintenance shop. Who knows?
Got about 8 cars to the crossing.
The SAL Lake Wales Passenger Depot was somewhere near here along Scenic Highway, but that was moved, restored, and now houses the Model Railroad Club here in town.
Copy that, SC57. Okay to back up. 8 cars, 8. All right, back it up.
57 is now shoving back with its train, and another trainman is counting down car lengths to the First Street crossing.
SC57, 4 cars to the crossing, 4. All right. SC57, gates is on, crossing is protected. Clear for 6 cars, 6. All right, gates down, 6-4, B7, 5-7.
Been a while since I've seen these colors shoving freight cars. A while like 30 years ago. 57 is now squarely on Atlantic Coast Line rails. This is the remnant of the Coast Line's Haines City branch that went all the way down to Lake Harbor on the south side of Lake Okeechobee. In 1956, it hosted 8 freights every day.
Looks like Ken's at the switch. Whenever you clear up there, SC57. Still good for 6 cars back there. All right, turn the brakes out on. Awesome.
Ken normals the switch for the Coast Line main, then climbs aboard for a job briefing, another one. These guys are all about safety, so no one does anything until everyone knows what's going to be done. I move on south to scope out some other locations. First stop is a mile south of here and the old Atlantic Coast Line Lake Wales station, still right on the old main line. The station now houses the Lake Wales History Museum. On the south end of the station sit some nice artifacts, some retired Lake Wales fire trucks, and this restored Seaboard airline caboose. I didn't check the actual genealogy of this car, but the markings look really good, and the interior looks authentic. If you're a caboose fan, Lake Wales is definitely worth a stop. Trainman Ken told me about a bridge that might be photogenic, so I drifted down 5.5 more miles to Babson Park and Libby Road. Trainman Ken was right. It's an old ACL-era creosote wood bridge. This one hasn't been upgraded with steel pilings or decking. Libby Road is still wood bridge timbers and close cross members, apparently good for only spanning about 10 feet at a time, because that's about how wide the 2 travel lanes underneath are. And you won't see any semi-trucks or concrete mixers on Libby Road either. Vertical clearance on this bridge is 9 feet 6 inches. I could almost guarantee this bridge has seen its share of SCL black and yellow engines over its lifetime. And here comes another one, Florida Central number 57. I moved on south, leapfrogging 57 on the parallel U.S. Highway 17. Southern Polk County is still mostly orange groves and quite beautiful, and this really caught my eye. At a lake just north of Frostproof is a scene that I'm sure must have been the inspiration for some of that art they used to put on fruit boxes in the first half of the 20th century. I moved into Frostproof, which is a nice, quiet town. The main street dead ends on a big freshwater lake. The old ACL depot is still here, but now serves as a coffee shop, albeit only a few days per week. The only thing hard about chasing trains on this line is the waiting. The entire Florida Midland Railroad is accepted track, an FRA classification, which means that nowhere will you see them running faster than 10 miles an hour. Here at County Road 630 in Frostproof are the last couple of miles of the Florida Midland. The last customer is down there around the bend, Lowe's Flatbed Distribution. And after about 20 minutes, here comes the 57, the Florida Midland Railroad's Frostproof turn. All of the Florida Central's trackage, including the Florida Midland here in Lake Wales and Frostproof, the Florida Northern up in Ocala, and the Florida Central in Orlando, all of it is former Seaboard Coast Line trackage. While there's no financial incentive for them to paint these locomotives in the predecessor scheme, it's a really nice homage to the history of the area and the part that SCL played in its progress. I broke off here and headed west. I would not be able to get close enough to the switching at Lowe's to shoot anything, and it was already nearing 90 degrees. So, westward I go. The Florida Midland's connection to the world is out here at West Lake Wales. This is the CSX Auburndale sub to West Palm Beach. The shortline's track begins at that D-rail just a few feet off the CSX main. The first customer on their line is Koppers, a wooden power pole company. They deliver to the different utilities, TECO, FP&L, and Duke Energy. Lots of these are needed for all those new neighborhoods being built in Polk County. West Lake Wales is ex-Seaboard Airline territory that once ran all the way from Coleman near Wildwood down to West Palm, then Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and into Homestead. It was the land of 95-mile-an-hour orange blossom specials, silver meteors, and silver stars.
98, you got to clear southwest of Lake Wales.
Here at the West Lake Wales Alturas Road crossing is a signal that guards a crossover in the middle of the siding. They nicknamed it Short Pass. The switch and signal behind us down there on the south end is called the Long Barrel. It's really cool that these old Seaboard Airline nicknames remain. West Lake Wales used to be a busy place with a major Seaboard passenger station, a freight yard, and an ice plant. Now the only thing to be seen here is a chance appearance of the Florida Midland, picking up and dropping cars, rock trains to and from South Florida, the 452-453 pair, and 4 Amtraks.
You got to clear through Short Pass. Through Short Pass 98.
Here's one of them, Amtrak 98, the northbound Silver Meteor.
Looked like Mr. Danny Harmon out there.
My deep appreciation to the Florida Central Railroad, especially Bill Dusenberry and the crew of the Frostproof Switcher for their hospitality. I love short lines, and especially ones here in Florida. Please hit the like button if you like this video, smash the little bell down there, and YouTube will notify you, ostensibly, whenever I post a new video. Please share this video with your friends. That is a huge help to me. And let's make plans to meet up again somewhere out there on the high iron. And until we do, this is Danny Harmon, out.